Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Nacho Problems, where we turn ordinary recipes into extraordinary nachos. I'm Nacho Queen, but you can call me M. Last weekend was Memorial Day here in the US, which is a day to commemorate men and women in the armed services who gave their lives for their country. It's also considered the unofficial start of summer and is generally celebrated with cookouts and picnics. So it seemed to me to be the perfect time to try out a viewer-recommended recipe: brisket nachos. Now there are many ways to prepare brisket, but we're going to be going with a smoked brisket to match our backyard barbecue theme. So let's get started. Step 1, the toppings. We're starting in reverse again because our toppings will be the brisket itself, which should actually be started the day prior to serving. For this we need, a brisket. We always get a large one so that we can make sandwiches out of the leftovers the rest of the week. We also need a spice rub. Cameraman mixes his own, and while he won't tell me exactly what's in it, I do always have to restock the paprika, garlic powder, and onion powder after he's mixed it up. I also know it contains salt and pepper, and I suspect brown sugar. In making his blend, he has to consider me and Youngson, who simply can't handle hot and spicy. But if you like to bring the heat, then consider using some chili powder or even some cayenne. Because the brisket is so large, cameraman has to cut it in half to make it a little easier to handle. Next, he's going to cover every inch of both slabs in the spice rub. Make sure you give it a heavy coating so that you get a nice thick bark on your finished brisket. Then, cover it in foil and put it into the fridge overnight. Guys, it's about 6 a.m. the next morning, and allow me to introduce the smoker, Snoop Dogg. Cameraman's decided to use some apple wood chips for today's brisket. He places each of the pieces in the smoker directly on the racks. This allows the juices to drain away. Leave them to smoke for about 4 hours, adding more wood chips every 90 minutes or so. Next, he takes each slab out, wraps it tightly in butcher paper before putting it back in for another 8 hours. This keeps the meat moist while allowing a nice bark to form on the outside. Okay, it started raining and the camera is not waterproof, so we're going to skip ahead to the finished product. Finally, he just unwraps and slices it up. I've asked him to chop some of it into smaller bites, as this will be a better size for nachos. Now, I felt we were going to need a little more color on our plate, so I also picked up some coleslaw to be used as another topping. I just got this from my local deli, so there's nothing to prep here. We can move on to Step 2, the cheese. We're going to be making some barbecue sauce for our cheese, and for that we need 2 tablespoons oil, half a cup of grated onion, 1 cup ketchup, 1 cup apple cider vinegar, half a cup of whiskey, optional, 1 cup brown sugar, 2 tablespoons Worcestershire sauce, 2 teaspoons hot sauce, add more if you like it spicy, 1 teaspoon salt, and half a teaspoon pepper. Start by adding the oil to a small sauce pot and saute the onions over medium heat until they're soft and translucent. Then add in all of the remaining ingredients. Stir it well and bring the mixture to a boil. Now reduce the heat and simmer for about 30 minutes. And that's our cheese. Let's move on to Step 3, the chips. Since my last attempt at turning cornbread into chips, I've tried out a lot of recipes, and I finally found one that's crispy, can hold up to the toppings, and actually tastes good. So for that we need 1 cup of flour, 1½ cups cornmeal, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1½ teaspoons salt, 1 egg, 1 cup of buttermilk, and half a cup grated onion. This will make crispy but fairly dense chips. If you prefer them a little fluffier, also add in 1½ teaspoons baking powder and half a teaspoon baking soda to your dry ingredients. You'll also need some vegetable oil for frying. Now, you might have noticed I didn't show buttermilk with the ingredients, but I did show regular milk and lemon juice. This is because I don't use buttermilk often enough to keep it on hand, so I'm going to show you how to make a simple substitute. To make 1 cup of buttermilk, Add 1 teaspoon of either lemon juice or white vinegar to a measuring cup. Then add plain milk up to the 1 cup line. Stir and let sit for 5 minutes. It's that simple. Now let's mix up our batter. Start by combining the flour, cornmeal, sugar, and salt in a large bowl. Then add about half of the buttermilk and whisk the egg into the rest before adding it in. Finally add in the onion and stir well to combine. Let's heat about half a cup of oil to about 365 degrees Fahrenheit. Gently spoon about 1/3 of a cup of batter into the oil. Careful, it will sizzle. Let it sit for about 3 minutes before very carefully turning it. Once turned, press flat and cook for another 3 minutes. Then remove from the oil and dry on paper towels. Repeat with the remaining batter. Well, that's our chips. Now it's time for step 4. Let's eat. Let's start with a bed of cornbread chips. Top that with some of our chopped brisket. Next, ladle on some of our homemade sauce. And finally, we're going to top that with some of our slaw. Jimmy Buffett is up on rotation for the first bite today. He did need the aid of a fork to get that perfect bite, but it was totally worth it. This recipe was a big hit with the whole family. Well, that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a like, and please consider subscribing if you want to see more nacho videos. If you have an idea for a future video, you can leave a comment below, or better yet, tag me on Twitter. I'm at NachoProblemsYT. And if you're looking to steal my apron, well, that's nacho merch, but you can get your own at the link in the description. Now, I'm heading off for vacation in a few weeks, so I really need to get some extra videos done so you guys don't have to go without. But that's not your problem. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.